Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to, really get into the weeds on the stories shaping things around us.
Yeah, our goal is always to kind of cut through the noise, get past the headlines.
Exactly. And today we're focusing in doing a really specific exploration of various sources, all concerning former President Donald Trump.
Right. We're going to distill the key events, the legal challenges, his political strategies, and the impact on institutions.
The whole idea is to help you, our listener, get properly well informed on what is, let's face it, a really complex and frankly important topic. We want to give you that shortcut to understanding.
And we've gathered a pretty wide range of material for this. We're talking legal analyses of court cases, those controversial appointments, but also political commentary, economic policy stuff, shifts in voting patterns, and even, the basic integrity of democratic institutions.
It's a lot, for sure. It's a big landscape.
It is.
Yeah.
But each piece kind of gives us like a critical insight, helps build a bigger picture.
That's the plan. We're going to try and connect dots that might seem separate at first.
Yeah. Reveal that larger story, how one person's way of using power can ripple out.
Through the legal system, the economy, politics, even how the world sees things.
And just to be clear up front, we're guides here. We're presenting the facts, the analyses from the sources themselves.
Totally impartial. We're laying it out so you can make up your own mind.
So let's dive in.
Okay, first stop, let's jump into, what feels like a pretty wild corner of Trump's legal world. We're going to zero in on Alina Habba. She's become a really familiar name recently.
Yeah, you see her a lot.
But before all that, the sources say she was running like a tiny little law shop in Bedminster, New Jersey.
Right, doing what they call door law.
Exactly. Parking tickets, fender benders, basic contract stuff, the everyday legal work.
Keeps the lights on, but not exactly front page news.
Not at all. But then, one source puts it really vividly, she got very, very lucky by sidling up to Donald Trump at just the right golf course.
And that's the key, isn't it? The why she suddenly vaulted onto the national stage.
Yeah, what do the sources say about that? Why her?
Well, the analysis we've seen is pretty clear. It wasn't about some brilliant legal strategy or, a stellar record. No. It seems she was picked because she was seen as loyal, flashy, and willing to fight his battles no matter how absurd or hopeless.
Wow. So, fight first, strategy second.
That seems to be the takeaway. It really highlights what people call Trump world, where, according to these sources, loyalty counts for more than competence.
Loyalty over competence. That's a recurring theme we might see.
It suggests that, unwavering support can sometimes matter more than actual legal skill, even when the stakes are enormous.
And when you look at her actual legal track record, her quote-unquote accomplishment?
Or misadventures, maybe.
Right, maybe that's a better word. The difference between that loyalty and actual competence becomes, pretty stark.
Yeah, the list of setbacks is significant.
For sure. She was involved in that New York fraud case, right? The one that cost Trump nearly $500 million.
Slammed with it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's hard to agree.
Not exactly. And then there were the E. Jean Carroll defamation cases. Lost both of them.
2 of them, yeah. Millions more owed there.
And she was part of the team that sources say kind of fumbled through the 34-count criminal conviction in Manhattan.
Right. And even before that, didn't she get fined?
Yeah. She and Trump got hit with a $1 million fine by a federal judge for filing a frivolous lawsuit.
$1 million. That should make any lawyer think twice.
You'd think so. So given all that, this public record of losses, how do the sources explain why she's still so prominent in his circle?
It's a really good question, and the analyses are pretty blunt. They contrast that record with her describing herself as a really accomplished attorney. And one commentary notes, look, real professionals don't need to brag about legitimacy. Your work speaks for itself.
Really. Usually, yeah, in court.
So if you constantly have to tell people you're competent, especially with that backdrop, it suggests maybe insecurity rather than confidence.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the underlying thing seems to be what you said. Loyalty is the main currency. If challenging the boss is seen as disloyal,
then someone who fights, even if they lose, might be more valuable than someone offering maybe tougher but more competent advice.
That seems to be the dynamic the sources describe.
Yeah.
The performance of fighting becomes the key thing.
The performance. Interesting. But this loyalty thing, it took a really chaotic turn, didn't it, with the U.S. attorney job?
Oh, absolutely. That's where the sources describe things going completely off the rails.
Reports say Trump tried to make her the U.S. attorney for New Jersey to reward that loyalty.
Yeah, an incredibly powerful position.
But the massive issue, pointed out immediately by judges was she wasn't properly appointed.
Not just a slip-up. This is basic government structure.
Checks and balances 101, as one source put it. Federal law is super clear. If a temporary appointment runs out and the Senate hasn't confirmed them.
Which is the constitutional way.
Right. Then the courts step in and assign a qualified person, usually a career official.
But the accounts say Trump tried to, game the system.
Yeah, allegedly tried to legitimize her by shuffling her around, calling her a special attorney, just trying to make it stick somehow.
The sources really emphasize the audacity there.
Yeah.
Just trying to bypass the whole constitutional process by sheer will.
And the fallout, predictably messy.
Utterly disastrous, according to the reports. A federal judge ruled her appointment flat out unlawful.
So not just her actions were invalid, but anyone working under her too.
For a while, yeah. It threw the fifth largest federal district in America, New Jersey, into total chaos.
Chaos how? What did that look like?
We're talking trials delayed, sentences delayed. The Justice Department was apparently scrambling, literally pulling in other officials just to co-sign paperwork for low-level cases.
Low-level cases? Like what?
Get this. The sources use the analogy of the Deputy Attorney General of the United States having to sign off on a jaywalking ticket in Newark.
You're kidding? The deputy AG signing off on jaywalking.
That's the level of absurdity and paralysis described, all stemming from this one improper appointment.
Wow. Just wow. And Haba's reaction to all this, the failures, the judges calling her out.
The accounts suggest a pretty consistent response, what they call a victim tour.
Mimi.
Hopping on friendly shows to whine that leftist activist judges are out to get her, claiming it's all political persecution.
And didn't she make some wild claims about votes?
Yeah, sources mention her falsely claiming, "We always win. Trump got 100 million votes."
Yeah.
Which, fact checks show is just not accurate.
Right. So bringing this together, what's the bigger lesson here?
Well, the whole thing is presented as a stark case study in what happens when loyalty replaces competence in really critical government roles.
And the impact isn't small.
Far from it. The sources argue it directly undermines justice, it slows down courts, creates gridlock, and ultimately they say it makes communities less safe because the legal system isn't functioning properly.
So for you, the listener, this isn't just some political drama about one lawyer.
Exactly. It connects to what sources describe as a wider pattern of Trump world figures who fail upward.
Failing upward.
And it highlights this really crucial idea. If you don't expose incompetence, if you don't hold people accountable for these kinds of major screw-ups, they keep climbing.
And the system suffers. Society bears the cost.
Precisely. It shows a real erosion of just basic effectiveness in government.
Okay, so we saw how loyalty might have trumped competence with Haba, leading to chaos. Now let's widen the view to how similar pressures were allegedly put on the entire judiciary.
Right, as an institution, not just one lawyer.
Starting with a really extraordinary situation in Maryland.
Yeah, that one was pretty jaw-dropping.
Our sources detailed Donald Trump trying to sue every single federal judge in Maryland.
Every single one. Not just the judge who made a ruling he disliked. The whole bench.
It's hard to even process that. And the trigger for this, what set it off?
It was because the federal judges there paused for just 2 days, 48 hours, to review habeas corpus petitions from immigrants facing deportation.
Okay, let's unpack habeas corpus for a second. It's important.
Absolutely fundamental. It's Latin, means produce the body. Basically, it's your right to challenge unlawful detention before a judge. It's in the Constitution.
And that 48-hour pause wasn't just made up.
Not at all. It was a specific safeguard put in place after real abuses, like a man named Abrago Garcia being wrongfully deported. It showed people could be removed without proper review.
So it's a due process protection.
Exactly. But the sources say Trump wanted immediate deportation, no waiting, no pause, no judicial review, just get him out.
Which flies in the face of this fundamental right.
Completely.
And the judge who handled this lawsuit against all the Maryland judges, who was that?
This is maybe the most striking part. It was Judge Thomas Cullen, and he was a Trump appointee.
A Trump appointee dismissed the case.
Didn't just dismiss it. Sources say he obliterated it, called it not just without merit, but a full-on assault on the judiciary.
Wow. Strong words from his own appointee.
He didn't hold back. He actually quoted Trump's team calling judges things like left-wing liberal activists, radical, politically minded, rogue, unhinged, outrageous. The list goes on. Crooked, And worse.
Just relentless attacks on the judges themselves.
And Judge Cullen's ruling firmly reasserted the principle of judicial immunity.
Explain that quickly.
It means judges generally can't be sued for doing their job, for the decisions they make from the bench.
So if you disagree with a ruling,
You appeal it. You go to a higher court. You don't, as the sources stress Cullen pointed out, sue the entire judiciary for doing its constitutionally mandated job.
right. So was this Maryland lawsuit just a one-off, bizarre event?
The analyses argue no, not at all.
Yeah.
They frame it as part of a larger visible pattern
A pattern of what?
of Trump allegedly trying to sidestep or bulldoze the rule of law, constantly attacking judges, prosecutors, the system itself, whenever things don't go his way.
And they compare this to
Tactics used by authoritarian leaders around the world. Leaders who don't like checks and balances, who try to undermine the institutions that are supposed to hold them accountable.
So Judge Cullen's ruling wasn't just about this one case.
No, it carried a broader warning from the bench, as the sources put it. He talked about the three co-equal branches of government and the danger when one tries to bulldoze another.
Maintaining that balance is key.
Absolutely. And interestingly, the sources note that dismissing the case so quickly probably saved Trump's team from some awkward depositions. People like Kristi Noem or Pam Bondi might have had to testify about their role in this lawsuit.
Ah, okay. So for you listening, why does this matter? Attacking judges.
Because it erodes trust. Trust to the judiciary, the very institution designed to be impartial and hold power accountable. It destabilizes the system, makes people question the fairness of justice itself. That impacts everyone.
Okay, so from the courts, this alleged pattern of pressure moved elsewhere too, like Voice of America.
Yeah, VOA, which is basically America's global loudspeaker.
It played a big role during the Cold War, right?
Huge, countering Soviet propaganda. And it's still vital now in the information wars against disinformation from places like Russia, China, Iran.
Its job is to broadcast credible, independent news worldwide.
Exactly. Offer a reliable alternative to state-controlled media.
But during the Trump administration, sources say VOA was effectively gutted.
Now, that's the term used. Staffing cuts, funding reductions. And critically, reports say they ignored a federal judge's order to basically keep VOA running properly.
Ignoring a judge's order, that's serious.
Very serious. Which brings us to Judge Royce Lamberth. He's described as a Republican-appointed judge.
Okay, and he issued the order.
He ordered them to restore VOA's operations. When the administration allegedly didn't comply, Lamberth issued what's called an order to show cause. It's basically the judge saying, explain why I shouldn't hold you in contempt of court. It's a formal threat. Things are getting serious. Penalties could be coming.
And didn't Kari Lake get pulled into this?
Yeah, in a fascinating twist. Judge Lamberth ordered Kari Lake, described as an election-denying, Trump-aligned media personality, to sit for a 7-hour deposition.
7 hours? Under oath. Why her?
Because of her connections to the agency that oversees VOA. The judge wanted to understand the decision-making process, why his order was allegedly ignored.
And depositions like that, they can be revealing.
Extremely. Legal analysts point out they're not just about facts. They show how people behave under pressure. Evasiveness, contradictions, it all gets recorded, and it can be powerful evidence for the judge.
So what's the bigger picture takeaway from the VOA situation?
The sources argue that politicizing and gutting an independent news source like VOA damages more than just the agency. It undermines the rule of law and weakens America's voice in the world.
How so?
It basically hands a win to authoritarian regimes. If America's own global broadcaster isn't seen as independent or credible, it loses its power to counter disinformation. It damages U.S. credibility on the world stage.
Okay, so we've seen pressure on the legal system, on government agencies like VOA, but this pattern, according to our sources, also seeped into the economy, blurring lines in some really concerning ways.
Yeah, raising questions about crony capitalism.
Where do we even start with the economic side?
Well, one thing that jumped out in the sources was this surprising move where some of the biggest corporate law firms in America pledged hundreds of millions in free legal work to the Trump administration.
Hundreds of millions for free.
Yeah. Now, on the surface, maybe that looks like public service, pro bono work. But when you dig into specific deals involving these firms, potential conflicts of interest start looking, well, pretty stark.
Like the Intel deal. Tell us about that one.
Right. So Intel was represented by one of these law firms that had pledged free work.
Okay.
And Intel ended up selling a 10% stake directly to the Trump administration.
Directly to the government. That's unusual.
Highly unusual. And look at the price.
Yeah.
An 83% discount. Shares were priced at $20 when they were trading publicly, over $24.
Wow, that's a huge discount. How did that happen?
Here's the really strange part. The money the administration used to buy that stake. It had already been promised to Intel through grants under the Biden administration.
Wait, so Intel didn't actually get any new money?
Effectively, no. They got money they were already supposed to get. Just now it came with the government owning 10% of them at a massive discount.
That sounds legally questionable.
The sources flag it big time. If the government didn't actually give up anything new, no new consideration in legal terms, how is this even enforceable?
Right.
And the conflict of interest is glaring. The law firm representing Intel had pledged massive free work to the other side of the deal, the Trump administration.
It's like that analogy one source used.
Yeah, hiring your spouse's lawyer during a messy divorce.
Yeah.
The potential for undue influence seems incredibly high.
Okay, that makes the conflict really clear. And then there was U.S. Steel.
Another really compelling example. The sale of U.S. Steel to Nippon Steel. This deal had hit regulatory roadblocks before.
But it went through under Trump.
It did. And here's the real kicker. According to the sources, Trump himself was given a special class of stock, a G-class share.
G-class? What did that do?
It meant oversight powers for the company went directly to Trump himself, not the office of the president, not an agency, to Donald J. Trump, the man.
Personal control over U.S. Steel.
Unprecedented personal oversight power. Yeah. And guess what?
Let me guess. The law firm.
You got it. Another one of the law firms that had pledged massive amounts of free work represented U.S. Steel in this very deal.
This pattern seems pretty consistent.
The sources frame these examples, look, at best, a pattern of questionable lawyering and sweetheart deals.
And at worst.
At worst, we're staring down the nationalization of industries, not for the benefit of the country, but for the benefit of one man.
Strong words.
They call it crony capitalism on steroids.
Ah.
And they warn that these kinds of deals often fly under the radar, but can quietly concentrate enormous power.
This idea of blurring lines, loyalty over impartial governance, did it extend to institutions like the Federal Reserve?
Absolutely. Our sources detail Trump's very public attacks on Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook.
Right. He claimed he was firing her for cause, based on mortgage fraud allegations.
Yes. And this is a huge deal because the Fed's independence from political pressure is considered absolutely critical for economic stability.
Tell us about Lisa Cook. Why is attacking her significant?
Well, first, her credentials. The sources emphasize she's an economist with a PhD, a Marshall Scholar, multiple advanced degrees.
Impressive.
And she's historic, the first black woman in history on the Fed board. Plus, her term lasts until 2038.
Another 13 years.
Exactly. Those long, staggered terms are specifically designed to insulate governors from the politics of any one president.
So trying to fire her is going against that design.
Directly. It's a major challenge to the Fed's structure.
So what's the real reason for the attacks, according to the analysis?
It seems to stem from Cook, along with the majority on the Federal Open Market Committee, the FOMC, which sets interest rates, voting not to cut rates for 5 months straight.
And Trump wanted rate cuts.
Desperately, it seems. The sources say he wants cheap money to juice the economy, likely for short-term political benefit, like before an election.
Regardless of the long-term consequences. Inflation, stability.
That's the concern raised. He sees Cook and the Fed's independent decisions based on economic data as roadblocks to his political goals.
And these mortgage fraud allegations, where did they come from?
The sources trace them to Bill Pay, a wealthy Trump donor.
A donor.
Yes. And this donor reportedly has a history of targeting prominent black leaders, people like Letitia James, Adam Schiff, with what are described as paperwork technicalities.
Meaning minor administrative issues, not serious crimes.
That's what the sources suggest. Things not typically considered major federal offenses, implying the allegations against Cook might be politically motivated rather than legally substantive.
And legally, can a president just fire a Fed governor?
No. Our sources are very clear. Only for cause. That means proven, serious misconduct, gross neglect, corruption. It's a very high bar, upheld by the Supreme Court precisely to protect the Fed's independence.
And Cook has representation.
Oh yeah, Abby Lowell, a major legal figure. He's ready to fight any attempt to remove her, signaling a big legal showdown if it comes to that.
What are the broader economic risks here, attacking the Fed?
They're huge. The Fed's independence is called sacred for economic stability. Trump's attacks send shockwaves through the global financial system.
How so?
Foreign investors, central banks, they rely on the U.S. economy being stable and predictable. When they see political interference with the Fed, they panic.
And that has real effects.
Absolutely. We're reportedly seeing flight capital money leaving the U.S. KED. Sources mention about $36 billion worth of U.S.-backed funds, treasuries, and stocks being dumped recently.
So investors are pulling out. Why does that matter to, regular people?
Because when foreign money leaves, it devalues U.S. assets. It can affect your 401k, the stock market, makes borrowing more expensive for businesses and consumers. And right now, other markets are looking better. Sources cite 22% returns in Latin American tech versus maybe 4-6% in the U.S. Money follows returns and stability.
And this affects the dollar, too.
Directly. The U.S. dollar is the world's currency, but funds tied to the U.S. dollar are down 9%, according to these reports.
And U.S. debt, foreigners hold a lot of that, right?
Yeah, $26 trillion worth. If they get spooked and stop buying U.S. debt, the government has to raise interest rates significantly to attract buyers.
Which means?
Which means the cost of servicing our national debt goes way up. We already spend $1 trillion a year just on interest payments. Higher rates would make that number explode, taking money away from everything else, infrastructure, healthcare, you name it.
This sounds incredibly serious. And there were other concerns about economic data.
Yeah, really worrying stuff. Sources detail Trump and allies floating ideas about taking over the Bureau of Labor Statistics and cooking the data.
Cooking the economic data, like inflation numbers, unemployment.
Exactly. If that happened, it would completely destroy trust in U.S. economic transparency. Investors rely on that data being accurate and unbiased. They'd flee.
Combine that with tariffs.
Right. Trump's tariffs led allies to retaliate, rethink trade deals. It all adds up to making America seem less investable, more unpredictable.
So the bottom line here for our listeners,
it connects directly to your wallet, your retirement savings, and the economic future of the United States. Undermining the Fed, politicizing data, unpredictable trade, it risks everything. It risks whether the U.S. remains the world's safest, strongest economy.
Okay, let's shift from the economy to political rhetoric and, behavior. Sources talk about something called the dictator playbook.
Yeah, starting with these bizarre cabinet meetings.
The cabinet of compliments, as they're called. What were those like?
Imagine instead of debating policy, you have a parade of praise. Sources describe Trump's cabinet meetings as a bizarre circus. Where officials engaged in blatant ego-stroking, saying things like, greatest honor of my life, crediting him with saving college football, calling him transformational, just constant flattery.
And these weren't short meetings.
One reportedly dragged on for nearly 3.5 hours. Just praise.
3.5 hours of compliments. It's almost comical if it wasn't, the actual government.
Right. And sources say members often invented an alternate reality on the spot.
Like what?
Like promising to put GDP on the blockchain, which is nonsense, while real economic problems were just sitting there, unaddressed.
So the analysis suggests this isn't just embarrassing, it's
proof of weakness, as one source puts it. Strong leaders don't need their staff to grovel.
Maybe he needed the reassurance because promises weren't being kept.
That's the suggestion, that he knew things weren't materializing, so he needed this constant ego boost.
And functionally, what did this achieve? Other than wasting time.
That's the other point. The cult of inefficiency. Spending hours, literal hours, of top officials' time on praise parades completely contradicts any idea of efficient government.
So governing takes a backseat to groveling.
Seems like it. And for you, the listener, why does this matter? Because in that kind of environment, policies don't get tested, mistakes don't get corrected. There's no real feedback loop.
And the people who pay the price?
It's us, regular Americans, who need government to actually function effectively.
This culture of flattery, this unchecked ego, it seems like a setup for the next point. Normalizing dictator talk.
Exactly. Trump has been incredibly consistent with this, using phrases like, I'm a dictator, but I stopped crime. So a lot of people say, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator.
He said that repeatedly.
Repeatedly, in various forms. It's not a slip of the tongue.
And the analysis suggests this is a deliberate tactic.
A classic authoritarian tactic, according to the sources, normalizing the language.
How does that work?
Through drip, drip, drip of repetition. The word dictator starts to lose its shock value, its sting. It's psychological desensitizing the public to something that should be deeply alarming in a democracy.
But people say, oh, he's just joking, or it's just rhetoric.
That's the common defense. But the sources argue it's more than just words, especially when you look at the actions. And there's a rhetorical trick he uses.
Which is?
Deflecting responsibility. Using phrases like, a lot of people are saying this.
So it's not him saying it, it's the people.
Exactly. He projects his desires onto some invisible crowd, making it seem like he's just reporting what they want, not what he wants. It gives him cover.
Okay, I see that. But the joking defense, how did the sources counter that?
By pointing to concrete actions. Efforts to undermine elections, pressure on states over things like redistricting, using the military for that photo op with tear gas near the White House.
These aren't jokes.
The sources argue these are authoritarian actions in practice. They align with the rhetoric, it's not just talk.
And they mention an international double standard.
Yeah. If leaders in other countries said, I'll be a dictator for a day, and did similar things.
American commentators would call it authoritarianism, no question.
Exactly. But here, the debate gets stuck on, is he joking? The sources warn this is dangerous.
Why dangerous?
Because dictatorships don't announce themselves with a grand opening ceremony. They creep in slowly. Normalizing the language allows democratic norms to erode without sounding the alarm bells immediately.
And who enables this, according to the analysis?
They point to Republican leadership, saying many have traded principle for career survival, failing to push back.
And Trump's message itself?
That he alone can fix it. Message is linked directly to the cult of personality playbook that fueled Mussolini, Hitler, Chavez. It's a classic authoritarian trope.
So what's the message for listeners here?
A direct call to action. A reminder that you don't work for him, he works for you. And that silence lets the normalizations sink in.
One source quoted a citizen's letter.
Yeah, about the importance of speaking up, defending democratic principles, not letting terms like dictator become casual. It's about remembering who's supposed to be in charge.
This idea of using power to punish opponents. It wasn't just rhetoric, was it? The Westmore example seems stark.
Very stark. Sources say Donald Trump decided to single out Westmore personally.
The governor of Maryland, why?
Apparently, for not giving him enough praise after the Key Bridge collapsed.
Not enough praise, so he threatened.
Threatened to yank funding for a bridge project in Maryland, specifically the Key Bridge replacement.
The bridge that was rebuilt super fast with bipartisan support.
In just 11 weeks, yeah. Moore's response was pretty direct. You can't take away something you didn't give in the first place.
Ouch. But the threats against Maryland went beyond the bridge.
Oh, yeah. Sources list a whole pattern of punishment. Pulling funding from the National Institutes of Health, NIH, squeezing Social Security resources in the state, denying FEMA relief Maryland qualified for, snubbing Maryland for the FBI headquarters.
It sounds relentless. And who was hurt by this?
That's the thing. Sources say he was often punishing his own supporters in counties that voted for him, described as petty, partisan, and punishing. Indiscriminate, really.
And he floated, sending the military into Baltimore?
Despite Baltimore seeing some of the fastest drops in violent crime in America recently, Moore rejected it flat out. Unconstitutional, unsustainable, and frankly, insulting. Soldiers aren't police.
Right. And then there was that story about the Army-Navy game.
Trump claimed Moore hugged him and called him the greatest president of my lifetime.
Which Moore said.
Moore dismissed it as completely fabricated. Another sad pattern of Trump making things up for self-aggrandizement.
So this whole Moore episode illustrates what, according to the sources?
How Trump allegedly escalates fights with governors who don't bow to him, threatening vital services, public safety, infrastructure, all seemingly for political obedience.
It shows what's at stake. The basic idea that government should serve people, not punish them based on political loyalty.
Exactly. A direct challenge to impartial governance.
Okay, let's look at the actual political fallout, the measurable consequences, starting with Newsmax and the cost of disinformation.
Right. Sources explain how Trump himself hyped up Newsmax, especially after he had a falling out with Fox News around 2020.
And that presidential boost had an effect.
A huge effect. Huge boost almost overnight in viewers, even their stock price for a while.
But this boost came with baggage.
Major baggage. Yeah. Newsmax became a prime outlet for the big lie.
The claims about the election being stolen.
Exactly. Sources detail how they repeatedly aired claims Dominion voting systems rigged the election. Wild stuff, vote flipping, ties to Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, bribes.
All of which lacked
any credible evidence. Repeatedly debunked by officials, courts, everyone.
And there were legal consequences for Newsmax?
Big ones. Dominion sued them for defamation. And Discovery found Newsmax executives expressed doubts about these claims while still allowing them on air.
Oh, so internally they knew it was questionable.
That's what the evidence suggested. It led to a massive $67 million settlement.
$67 million. Paid how?
In installments. But sources say it could shake their entire operation, potentially threatening their future.
Why did they push these claims so hard then?
The analysis points to competition. Fierce competition for Trump's base. Newsmax and others essentially played the role of the ref conspiracy announcers, telling fans what they wanted to hear to grab viewers, even if it meant spreading falsehoods.
So what does this tell us about accountability?
It's a reminder, the sources argue, that free speech isn't absolute. It protects your right to express opinions, but it doesn't give you the right to knowingly spread false information, especially lies that damage democracy.
And Newsmax isn't alone. There are other lawsuits.
Yeah, ongoing suits against Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Mike Lindell for similar claims. It shows a broader legal pushback.
So for you, the listener, the takeaway is
that the justice system can hold powerful entities accountable for spreading damaging lies. It might be slow, but lies have consequences. It's a check on disinformation.
Okay, moving to the ballot box. There was a political earthquake in Iowa.
That's what the sources called it. Senate District 1. First-time Democrat Caitlin Dray won.
And this district was?
Deep red. Donald Trump carried by 11 points in 2024.
So her win represents?
A massive shift. A 21-point swing from red to blue in under 2 years. Just stunning.
And the significance wasn't just that one seat.
No, it broke the GOP's supermajority in the Iowa Senate. Meaning Republicans there are going to have to negotiate, compromise, and defend their policies now. They can't just push things through anymore. Big change in the power balance.
And this has implications for Senator Joni Ernst.
Yeah, she's up for re-election in 2026, and sources say she's on shaky ground. Only 39% approve of her performance. A majority want someone new. That's dangerous territory.
Didn't she have a gaffe recently?
That, well, we're all going to die comment, yeah. Responding to a voter worried about Medicaid cuts. But sources say it probably didn't help much. Raised questions about empathy.
And this isn't just Iowa, right? This trend.
No, sources stress it's happening elsewhere. Similar shock victories for Democrats. An 89-point swing in a New York district, Trump won by 55.
Yeah.
First Dem mayor in Omaha since 2009. It's consistent across different types of places.
So the analysis connects this to Trump. How?
They describe Trump as the anchor for the GOP. The data suggests wherever Trump's influence looms large, Republicans are underperforming, dragging them down in these other races.
Like an anchor.
Exactly. And they see this globally, too. Conservative parties elsewhere that align too closely with Trump often pay an electoral price.
What about the actual numbers, the down-ballot collapse?
Sources show Democrats consistently overperforming in race after race since 2024. The average swing, about 11 points toward Democrats. Sounds a lot like the 2018 blue wave after Trump's 2016 win. History potentially repeating a polarizing president, creating headwinds for his party down the ticket.
So for you listening, what do these trends mean?
They suggest the political ground might be shifting. Voters seem open to change if you give them a reason to believe.
Old loyalties might be more fluid than we think.
Let's touch on redistricting. Another way elections can be shaped, or maybe rigged. Utah is the example here.
Yeah, even in deep red, reliably Republican Utah, the issue was Salt Lake City, a Democratic stronghold.
What happened there?
It got sliced and diced in the redistricting map.
Yeah.
Its voters were split among multiple districts to dilute their power.
Resulting in
4 Republican seats, 0 Democratic ones, even though there's a big Dem population there. Classic gerrymandering.
But didn't Utah voters try to stop this?
They did. They passed a referendum in 2018 for an independent redistricting commission to take the politics out of it.
But the legislature...
The Republican legislature basically stripped that commission of its actual power, made it just advisory, and drew their own map anyway.
And sources connect this to Trump's tactics elsewhere.
Yeah, this kind of political map rigging mirrors tactics Trump was reportedly pushing in other states to influence outcomes.
But the court stepped in Utah.
Yes, a Utah judge ruled the legislature's actions unconstitutional, ordered a brand new, fairer map by October 2025.
Meaning Salt Lake City likely gets its own district back.
Very likely. Which would make at least one seat competitive again, reflecting the voters better.
Could this be overturned on federal appeal?
Probably not. Sources point out the U.S. Supreme Court has already shot down similar arguments, like the independent state legislature theory in Moore v. Harper. State courts have oversight here.
So the ruling wasn't just about legal technicalities?
No, the sources emphasize it was about enforcing the will of the voters, who clearly asked for fair maps via the referendum, a win for citizen power.
And this Utah case has broader significance.
Definitely seen as a test case for the whole country, part of a trend where courts are starting to say, hey, enough, voters deserve a fair shake, pushing back on gerrymandering nationwide.
So for you, the listener, the bottom line is,
When politicians have to earn your vote instead of rigging the system, democracy works better. It's about making elections actually reflect the electorate. #HackoutOutro.
so as we wrap up this deep dive, wow, it's clear the influence of former President Trump, based on these sources, is just incredibly wide-ranging.
Yeah, touching everything, legal, economic, political institutions.
And we saw these themes keep popping up, didn't we? Loyalty versus competence.
Challenges to institutional independence.
That normalization of really extreme language.
And real, measurable consequences politically and economically that affect everyone.
And what's really striking is how these things aren't separate incidents.
No, the sources really connect them. They paint a picture of a consistent approach to power, to governing that, well, it demands attention.
These threads weave together into a much bigger story about where things stand with democratic norms, with institutions.
Absolutely.
So we want to leave you with a question to think about, to maybe chew on a bit. Given everything we've discussed from these sources, this constant pressure on institutions, the erosion of trust, the blurring of lines, how does a society square that with the basic principles of a stable republic?
That's a big question. And what's your role as the listener in sorting fact from rhetoric, in upholding the systems that are supposed to keep us informed?
And maybe most importantly, how do we make sure that doing a deep dive like this, getting all this information, leads to active critical thinking, not just feeling overwhelmed?
How do we turn understanding into responsible action?
Exactly. Food for thought.
Definitely.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep digging deeper.